Hello, stitching friends. I'm Amy. I'm the Globetrotting Stitcher. I'm here with Gary, who is also a Globetrotting Stitcher, and we're happy to be back with you today. It has been a minute. We have just been incredibly busy. It's been 6 weeks since we actually were able to film a video. Actually, I think a little bit more than 6 weeks. So we are long overdue. And we're glad to be back with you. So if you're a returning friend and subscriber, welcome back. If you are just finding us for the first time, welcome. We hope that you enjoy the things that we're working on and that you decide to stick around. So the last 6 weeks, oh my gracious, like I said, it's been just really busy. I actually had 2 work trips plus another like work event thing where I was hosting partners. So shortly after our last video, I went to Ghana for a week. I was, after I finished my work in Ghana, which I'll tell you about my trips in more detail later, but after I finished my work in Ghana, I came home for a week. And then on July 5th, bright and early in the morning, after all the festivities, I headed off to Nigeria for a week. I came home, I was home for 3 nights, and then I was off on another work event. So it's just been really, really busy. We've had a lot going on, and it looks like for the next few weeks, at least through the end of summer, I will be at home, and I'm looking forward to a more normal schedule. So what have we been up to aside from work stuff? Well, just a couple quick life updates, and then I would suggest if you don't already have a beverage that you get one, because we have a lot to share with you. So in our last update, we were telling you that Bear was getting ready to go in for an unexpected dental surgery. And obviously, given the amount of time that's passed, he is fully recovered now. His surgery went very smoothly, and he is feeling much better and looking much better than he was before the surgery. The dogs did feel a little bit put out because it was a dental surgery. Bear wasn't allowed to have anything other than soft food for 2 whole weeks. And so that meant that all of the bones and the snacks and the nice things that they all like to eat, nobody was getting any because, well, it wasn't going to be fair to give snacks to the girls and not to Bear. So everybody went without, and they all felt very abused. So when Bear was finally cleared to get back on normal foods, they were all very happy to get their snacks back. So that's the dogs. We also had an important family event. Gary's mom just this last week celebrated a milestone birthday. And so many of you remember that when my dad turned 80 earlier this year, we talked about Gary created a wonderful birthday video with birthday greetings and photos and memories. And so he did the same thing for his mom's birthday, and she absolutely loved it. It was, he worked on it for a couple of months, and it was a big undertaking with lots of contributions from family. So it was a really wonderful project, and she really loved it. I think that's it in terms of anything interesting as far as life, other than my work trips, which, like I said, we'll share with you after we get through the stitching for those who want to stick around. But I wanted to mention before we get into the stitching, the best new thing in cross stitch land, which I don't normally do this, but I have to share this. If you haven't, if you're not already watching Teresa Little Stitcher, what are you doing with your life? Teresa Little Stitcher is one of those Flosstubers who has been around since the early days of Flosstube, and there's a reason why she is a fan favorite. Her channel is wonderful, but fairly recently, she started a new kind of Flosstube extra sort of series that is like storytelling episodes, and it's stories that are very calming, and they're designed that you can listen to her read to you while you stitch. And so she's done 2 of them so far, and the series that she is doing it's actually a story that she wrote herself. Called The Stitch Witches of Threadwell Cottage. And you guys, I so enjoyed the 2 episodes that I've heard so far. Just very calming, very, it's just a nice, lovely story and a thoroughly enjoyable way to sit and stitch. And so if you have not checked out Teresa's storytelling episodes, you've got to go check them out. They're fantastic. And so she's going to be doing more, and I'm very much looking forward to those. So that is my best new thing in cross stitch land. All right, so let's get into these whips because we have a lot of them. So the first thing I have to show you is 2 finishes. And the first of these finishes is my seasonal project. I've been working on the Mine Biscorn by Heartstring Samplery. I stitched this on a piece of 32 count caramel linen by Seraphim Fabrics, and I used the called for flosses. So the last time you saw this, I had just finished the top section of the top piece of the Biscorn, or the main focal point of the Biscorn. And I was I had made good progress in working down both the right side and the left side of the project. So here is my finish. Obviously not fully finished yet, but as you can see, we've got now the completed top and bottom pieces of the Biscorn. I think I mentioned this in our last video. It does not look terribly stitch heavy, but there are a lot of stitches in this project. It took me longer than I thought it would. Beautiful colors. It was a really enjoyable piece to stitch. I will say the counting to get to the center section here was not my favorite. Counting over long stretches always makes me a little bit nervous, but it all worked out in the end. And I really, really love this piece. I'm looking forward to getting it into a fully finished form. It will be the first time I've made a Biscorn. I'm a little intimidated by that, to be honest, but everybody I've ever heard who's said, oh, I'm really nervous about making a Biscorn, and then they make their first Biscorn and they're like, oh, that was so much easier than I thought it would be. So I'm counting on the fact that it's not going to be as hard as it seems like it will be. At any rate, this is how it turned out. I really love it. I think it's going to be a great addition to my Valentine's decor next year, and very fun stitch. So I think the only thing I changed on this, and it was a very minor change, but the only thing I changed on this from what was called for was on my little envelopes. My white didn't show up quite as much as I wanted it to on this fabric. And so I did choose to do some couching stitches around all of the envelopes just to make them a little tiny bit more distinct. I did use white on that, so it's not like I outlined them in a different color. But I do think, at least in person, it makes those envelopes show up just a little bit better. And I was pretty happy with how that turned out. So that is that one. Also, I'm going to apologize up front, or maybe not apologize, but inform that I do not iron my pieces between videos or between working on them. I know some people iron every time they work on a project. I don't. And part of that is because if I can wash a project, I like to wash my projects before I finish them or fully finish them. And so I don't like to iron in any dirt or stains that a piece might have acquired in the stitching process. So I know some people are really bothered by projects that aren't ironed, and if that's you, I apologize. But fair warning, I don't iron until they're done. Anyway, that's this finish. We're gonna move on. All right, the next finish that I have to show you was a new start the last time you saw it. And this is my travel stitch. So I'm working on a number of projects by Leela's studio in her different Christmas sweaters collection. And so I had started the Noel sweater from the Noel en Bleu, Noel en Bleu. And I was stitching the Noel sweater on a piece of 36 count Mocha Edinburgh linen by Zweigert. So as I said, this was a new start the last time you saw it. And I had fully outlined the sweater. And then was starting to do the fill-in at the top of the sweater. So I took this with me on my recent trips, and I was able to get it finished. And so here it is, all done. I did everything as called for, except at the bottom I did add my brother's name because I'm going to turn this into a Christmas ornament for him as a gift this year. And this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed working on it. It's not traditional Christmas colors, so You know, after I had kind of gotten well into it, I thought about it and I was like, I kind of wish I had done this maybe in more traditional Christmas colors, just so that it might be a little bit more appealing for somebody who's decorating their Christmas tree and that's their kind of color palette. But it's done, and so if he doesn't like it, he can put it away somewhere. But anyway, it was a lot of fun to stitch. I really enjoy working on these. They stitch up, some of them are rather dense stitching, but they stitch up fairly quickly nonetheless. And so this is the second sweater that I have completed out of these charts, and more to come. So that is my Noel sweater from Noel en Bleu. All right, I'm gonna put this to the side for later. All right, so now we're gonna get into the works in progress, and we've got quite a few of those to show you. So the first one I'm gonna show you is my monthly morning stitch that I was working on during the month of June. And this is Autumn Creek Mill, which is a Luca S kit. So this is a project, the last time you saw this was in our end of 2024 whip parade. I actually started this in October of 2024 and spent a month putting stitches in the morning as I had time. And I had started working up, as I usually do with most of my project, I start in the top left corner. And so I had just been working, the last time you saw it, I had been working in the sky and had started working on the hot air balloons on the left-hand side of the design. So this is where it is right now. And just because June was a very busy month for me with travel and I was gone a lot, this did not get as much love in the mornings as I would have liked. I did not take it with me on travels because I knew I wouldn't have a chance to work on it. But I did make some progress. So I've filled in more of this sky moving to the right, finished this first smaller hot air balloon that's further off in the distance, and then carried the background down. And just as you start to get into kind of the foothills that are part of the backdrop of the design, you can see I've started stitching that. And then I also put in a few more stitches on this next hot air balloon over. So not a ton of progress, but these monthly morning stitches are projects that they only get picked up, you know, for short periods a few times a year. And so they are slower moving projects, but I was happy to get a chance to work on this. I'm looking forward to when it comes out again later this year. And I'm reasonably happy with what I got accomplished on it. I'm stitching this on with the kit fabric and floss, which I should have mentioned when I first talked about it. So that was my progress on Autumn Creek Mill. This has already been put away since it was my June project, and it will come out again in October. Okay. Next up is one of the favorites of our viewers on this channel, and this is my main full coverage stitch. So I am working on Rose Trellis Inn by Heaven and Earth Designs. This is a piece of art by Randall Spangler that has been charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, and I am stitching it 2/1 with a combination of half stitch and continental stitch on a piece of 28 count white Lugana. So the last time you saw this, let's see, where was I? I had finally finished the 5th row of pages and had started in on the bottom row of pages on the left-hand side. I had also finished stitching the bushes that were next to the right side of the inn, as well as the spray of delphiniums that were down along that side. And then because I had moved into the next row of pages, started working from the left side over to the right, and had started working on the road that runs in front of the inn and stitching on more of the garden on that left side of the inn. So let's see, here is where we are right now. So this project is now at 91% complete. Another big milestone that was really exciting is I am now all the way to the bottom. So this is the very bottom row of the design, and I've started stitching down along that bottom section. I now have I have about 19,000 stitches left to finish this project. So we are truly, truly in the home stretch. And at this point on pace to finish by the end of the year, knock on wood, assuming I can manage to keep myself, to give this the time that it deserves. So in terms of what I worked on this last time, I worked quite a bit in finishing up working more on this garden section. So stitched quite a few of these little these little bunches of flowers that are growing in the garden over here. Worked and filled in quite a bit more of this roadway down here, and worked in filling in the brick border to the garden and the pathway here as well. Also stitched in more of the pathway that's coming away from the house. So yeah, this one has just gotten to be really fun to work on because the stitching is going quickly now. There are still little bursts of confetti here and there, but it's mostly thicker or, you know, less confetti stitching and more bigger blocks of color. And so it goes a little bit more quickly, and that's exciting because you see the progress more quickly. So when I look at this, on the one hand, I do feel like, oh gosh, we're really closing in on the finish. When I think about how much time is left, and then I look at it, I'm like, that looks like it's got more to go than the stitch count is telling me it has to go. So it's making me a little bit nervous, but you know what? I mean, according to the numbers, I'm on track. But this is where it is. I think it's really looking beautiful, and I'm very excited to work on this again soon. It's exciting to be making such good progress on it and closing in. So that is where I am on Rose Trellis Inn. All right, I think you guys have heard enough of me running my mouth. So let's hear from Gary on the things he's been working on.
Hello. Well, I've only been working on 2 projects and probably not as much as I should have been, but I have been working on them. The first one I was working on, I don't know, I'll get it together in a second. The first one that I'm working on is called Louis Armstrong, and it's by Stitching Jewels Design, and it's 16 count white Aida, and we're doing the called for DMC, which is black 310. So the last time that you saw this, I believe I was still working on his, I guess that would be his left forearm going down to, you know, get down to the bottom of the page, or at least that page. It was an interesting part to work on because no matter how much work I did, it seemed like I didn't do anything just because of the angle. Well, yeah, because of the angle. But anyway, here's what it looks like now. And what I've done basically is I've completed that page. So I believe that's page, see, 1, 2, 3. I think it's page, whatever. It's a page, and it's completed. So that's real nice. There are only 3 more pages left that are full, like not like the whole page, but you know, would cover the entire page in some fashion. After that, page 9 and 10, I believe, only goes 40 to 60 deep, so it's not. So, and that's for both pages, and it's not a lot of continuous stitching. So that might go quick. But with that said, I still don't know when I'm going to be done with this, and that's okay, because sometimes it's good to not know. But at any rate, so that's where I am on Louis Armstrong. I'm not going to make any promises about where I'll be, but at least I'll be starting another page the next time you see it. So if you see his fingers, I'm going to start there and fill out all of that. So, and that is kind of like the top of the trumpet. Most of that's the top of the trumpet, and is part of his handkerchief that he always had, which is the handkerchief. And I wasn't going to talk about this, but I am. But if you look, you can see there's a bunch of little X's. I don't think they're in the right place, but that's okay, because I don't use them as an anchor point to count from. So, and I wouldn't. If you're going to do this, don't use those as an anchor point to count from. Do your best, but do something else. Anyway, so that's where I am on Louis Armstrong. Yeah, so you can put that down now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was his handkerchief. I thought it was like music that he was reading. Sorry.
Well, now that we know, I hope it wasn't music.
No,
that he was
I'm sure
reading.
you know him as
Well,
a
I was just
musician.
thinking of the common uses for the handkerchief.
It makes total sense. It
You
just
don't want to read that in public. Anyway, so the the next thing we'll be talking about is called Unexpected Visitors. And this is by Night Spirit Studio, and that's an Etsy shop. It's 16 count clay Ada, and I'm using all the called for, I keep saying floor, all the called for flosses. There's only 3 colors, black, red, and white. So the last time that you saw this, I'm pretty sure I had already finished the first page, or the first page 1 had been completed, but I had carried the top border all the way over to the left, I think. Anyway, I carried the border all the way over. Yeah, that's left. And that's where I was the last time that you saw this. Anyway, this one's a fun one to do because we were out with friends this weekend, friends we haven't seen, or last weekend, we haven't seen in a long time. And everybody talks about what they're up to. And I said, well, I'm doing a cross-stitch pattern of this really nice winter scene. It's got a church and, I don't know, a couple of other buildings and snowflakes, and it's a really idyllic scene. And there's a spaceship shooting the buildings and burning them. And everybody just started laughing. So I'm hanging around the right people. Anyway, anyway, I'm looking forward to finishing this. But I guess I should talk about where it is now. Here's where it is now. I've completed the border on the left side going all the way down. I need to finish the black on this page, and that won't take long. And then I'll start filling in the red and the white and the snowflakes, which are going to be white. And then this page will be done. I'm hoping that this page will be done by the next time that we do this, because I never know when we're going to do this. Actually, we're looking pretty good at probably doing this again in 2 weeks, back to what would be our normal schedule. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, so that's where this one is. And I really like it. People get a kick out of it when I describe it. So, and also I posted it on a status of it on Facebook, and I think a lot of people people who knew me just kind of went. Anyway, so that's what I think happened.
So Gary.
Anyway, so that's where I am on that. So the other one that I wanted to mention, I guess, is the action figure. And I'll just mention this now because it's easier to do now than it will be later. So the action figure I wanted the big guy, but I didn't know why. I just figured I'll chunk him out there and leave him there. I don't care. I think I got him out there because I got him at Ross for $8. So you can't go wrong with an $8 action figure. But then I started thinking, later on we'll be talking about a contest, and Amy and I had talked about whether or not we should do an action figure giveaway. And then I thought, okay, but I don't know who would want a G.I. Joe or anything like that. And I don't think anybody really wants a G.I. Joe. I don't even have any. Well, I have G.I. Joes. I've got the old G.I. Joes. Either way. So then we realized we had a figure we called Frogman, who's been featured, who is Frogman, and we featured him several times when we've had to do a lot of frogging. So that's the action figure picture today. So we were wondering if you guys think we should have a contest, which hasn't been devised yet, where we give away one Frogman action figure. It'll be in the box. I can't guarantee that the tape will still be intact. I might open it, take a peek. No, just kidding. It'll be in the box fresh, I guess they call it. And right now we can still get them pretty cheap. So if someone wants if you think we should do that, just let us know. We'll read the comments. Well, she'll read the comments and then tell me what we're doing. So, just kidding. Anyway, so that's enough of me. I'm not sure, once again, how much time we have left, but that's enough for me for now.
Okay, so we're gonna start talking about my whips again because I have more to show. And so the next one I'm gonna show you is my weekend project. This is Butterfly Port Mauve by Heaven and Earth Designs. And as I do with all of my full coverage projects, I'm stitching this on a piece of, well, I'm stitching it 2/1 with a combination of half stitch and continental stitch. This is being stitched on a piece of 28 count white easy grid-loom Ghana. So this project, the last time you saw it, I had been working in, there's a spray of purple flowers toward the bottom of the design on the left. So I'd been working in that, and I had started stitching on some of the green leaves. This is a project that just, because of all the travel and how much I've been away, this is like one of the more neglected projects. So in the last 6 weeks, I've only managed to get around 800 stitches, and it should have about twice that if I were kind of able to stick with my normal progress level. So I'm just over 40,000 stitches complete on this now. So let me show you what I've been able to do since the last time you saw it. Basically, where you're going to see progress is I've done a little bit more in terms of stitching in the purple flower. So it kind of looks like it's a little violet or a pansy maybe. I think it's a violet. So I've done more of the stitching on that and stitched in more of the green leaves as well as a bit more of that red background that this is all on. So that's where my 800 stitches have been. I also did a little bit more background down in through here. This one should get some more love between now and the next time we film. So I don't know if it will come out on the next video just because I try and get around between 800 and 1,000 stitches of progress before I show it, just so you can actually see a difference. But so we'll see when you see this again, but this is where we are right now. And, you know, it is what it is, but it is definitely coming along. One other thing that I did manage to do is I did get a page finish. So page 19, which is right in through here, is now complete. And I now have 4 pages totally finished on this project. So that's where I am on this one. Oh, eek. All right. The next project I have to share with you is one I've been working on over the course of this last week, and this is my wildcard stitch. I am working on Cabin Fever, which is a Dimensions Gold Collection kit. I am using the kit Fabric and Floss. It's an 18 count kind of cream colored Aida, and then just Dimensions standard, the floss that they provide. So the last time you saw this, I had really started stitching in the reflection of the cabin in the pond on the bottom half of the design. I had, let's see, I was close to finishing the stitching on page 1, which is the whole left side of the design. So I wasn't totally finished with that, but I was almost done with the cross stitch and the back stitch, excuse me, the half stitches. So I had a little bit more to do there, and then I still have a fair bit of back stitch and French knots, but in terms of like the actual cross stitching part, it was almost done on page 1. And then I had started stitching the shoreline below the cabin. So here's where this is right now. So as you can see, I've been filling in a lot more of that reflection of the cabin underneath in the pond below here. And that's where my focus has been entirely. Because I was away from home for several days when I was working on this, I was stitching it in a hoop rather than in a large Q-snap, so I had a much more concentrated area to focus on. So stitched in a fair bit of the reflection of the roof and the mirror image of kind of this middle section of the cabin. Also filled in more of the shoreline underneath the cabin and the reflection of shoreline. So this is really coming along. And the amount of fill-in that I have left to do, there's still a fair bit of fill-in. I mean, I've got something like 7,000 to 8,000 stitches left to do on this project before the cross stitch and half stitch are finished, and that doesn't count any of the back stitch or French knots. However, it's another project that Markup RXP is telling me that if I continue on at the pace of stitching that I've been stitching, this should take me 21 days to finish, which would be another 3 rotations. So we shall see. But it is coming on. Feels like it is getting close to the finish now, and I'm really happy with how it's looking. I am looking forward to getting some more time put into, I feel like I need to do some more catch up on the back stitch so I don't end up having a ton of back stitch at the end because I haven't done as much as I would like. So I might try and get a little bit of back stitch in today. But that's where this one is, and I'm really happy with how it's looking. So that is Cabin Fever by Dimensions. All right. Let's see here. Whoop. All right. The next project I have to show you, oops, let's not grab two, is my sampler. So I am stitching the Brick House sampler by With Thy Needle and Thread. And I am stitching this on a piece of 40 count Abecedarian linen by R&R Reproductions. And I'm using mostly called for flosses. I have had to sub out a couple of things just because of dye lot variations that made the floss that I had not work very well. So, but have been color matching as best as I can to what the colors are supposed to look like. This is a project that I am doing as a stitch along with my friend Sarah, who is Stitch Addict on Instagram, and then also Chasing Alex on Instagram. And they're both making wonderful progress. So you should go check out their Instagram feeds and get a look at what they've been doing. So the last time that I showed this to you, I had finished page 1, which is the far left side of the design. There are 3 pages in this chart. And I was close to the halfway point on filling in the house and was starting to carry over the vine that runs along the bottom border. I had finished the left side of that vine and was starting to carry it through the center and onto the right. So here's where I am right now. This is one of the other projects that unfortunately, just because of when it came up in rotation, it's been a little bit neglected. It's just not, the weeks that I had this come up in rotation, it just wasn't going to get as much stitching time as I wanted on it. So what you can see that I have done is I've started working now on the right side of the design, the elements on the right side of the house. So I've got this kind of flower bush thing here in, filled in more of the house. Some of the stitching that I've done, some of the progress that I've done, you actually can't see because it's these kind of white stitches that are on the border of the house, the trim of the house. And so I did quite a bit of that, but it doesn't show up very well on the fabric. So there is progress you can't see. Did work more in this vine, carrying it over through the center. But yeah, the short story is this project really got neglected. And I'm hoping that the next time that it comes up in rotation, that it will get a lot more love and have more noticeable progress because it's such a beautiful project. I really enjoy working on it. It's just time being what it is. It didn't get the time that it needed. So this one I did take with me to Nigeria, and that was why it was, not getting a whole lot of progress. I was very busy both throughout the day and late into the evening most of the nights that I was in Nigeria. So that's the way work trips go. So anyway, that is my progress on my sampler, and looking forward to this coming back out again in a few weeks. All right, I have 2 whips left to show you. So the first of those is my Fancy Lady. And I am stitching, let's see here. I am stitching County Fair by Lavender and Lace. And I am working this project on a piece of 32 count Oaken Belfast linen by Picture This Plus. And I'm using all the called for flosses. So the last time you saw this, it was a brand new start, and I mean like the brand newest of new starts. I had put in a handful, like maybe 50 stitches in the top left corner of the design, where the top of the garland is, that kind of frames the lady in at the fair. Well, I have made some pretty good progress on this. I've been shocked. Here's how looks right now. I have been shocked at how quickly this project stitches up. Those garland sections, they have a lot of confetti, so that does slow you down a little bit, but it's fun stitching. I don't think I was quite prepared for how bright the colors are, and that's not a bad thing. It was just, I was kind of, in my mind, this is an autumnal piece, and so I was kind of thinking of it as more of a slightly muted, although rich palette. But those colors are very, very bright. The reds and the aquas and the pinks are very bright. And then of course the colors in her hat are very bright. It's a really fun project to work on. I've been enjoying it quite a bit. And I'm, when you're used to working on one of these massive Mirabilia ladies where the stitching and the dresses just go on forever and ever, something like this, which is actually a much smaller count of like design size, it just, you're shocked at how quickly it goes. Anyway, I have stitched down, I've finished this whole kind of top section of the garland here, and I'm stitching down to the table where all of the good things that she's got at the fair are. As you can see, I've started stitching the garland here that frames her up on the right. And I've been working in her hat. So her hat and her hair and the flowers up here. I'm hoping to actually stitch her face the next time this comes up, and I will do that 1 over 1. Or actually I'll probably do it 2 over 1 and do it in half stitches, but it'll look like 1 over 1 skin. And so I'm looking forward to kind of getting that done. And then as you can see, I've stitched I've basically stitched all of the bodice of her dress, as well as her, I guess it's not really an apron, it's more of a pinafore. So I stitched the top part of her pinafore and then gotten into her sleeve here and started stitching that. This little red bit down here is also the very beginning of the shawl that she has draped around her arm. So this one has been super enjoyable to work on. I think it's really pretty. I'm loving the colors, and I'm just loving how quickly it's coming on. So that is County Fair by Lavender and Lace. All right, so the last whip that I have to show you is my monthly morning stitch for July. And this is my Lumberjack Beaver. This is a project by Kits by SA Stitch, which is an Etsy shop. And I am stitching this on, oh no, I don't have my fabric listed. This is a problem that we can solve. I am stitching this.
It's got a bunch of holes in it.
All right, here we go. This is why Notion, if you guys aren't using Notion, oh man, I love it. It's amazing. Okay, so I am stitching this on a piece of 36 count opalescent winter scene even weave from Fabric Flair. So this is a printed fabric. I've got it folded in half when you see it, so you're not gonna see the full piece just because this is a fat half. It's a massive piece of fabric. But that is what I am stitching mine on. And I'm planning to stitch multiple animals on this piece of fabric, like creating a scene of the woodland animals meeting up in the winter woods. But I've started with the Lumberjack Beaver. So the last time you saw this was when I started it, and I worked on this throughout the month of January this year. And I had just started working in the beaver's, the hat that the beaver's wearing, and then his face. Actually, it might be a lady beaver, I don't know. Anyway, so far I've put in 330 stitches during the month of July, which is not very much, but it's progress, so I'll show it to you. So, sorry. We're grown-ups here. So this is my beaver.
All right.
Okay.
You need to get yourself together.
Seriously. Okay. So, as you can see, I have finished stitching the beaver's face and hit the hat. And I'm now working in the scarf, and I've also started working down into the sweater. So not a lot of progress, but I'm actually planning to take a few days off work here at the end of July. And so this is a project that I'm hoping that I will get to work on at least 5 or 6, maybe 7 times during that time away.
Me too.
And sorry. Out of line. Oh, so hopefully when we come back to, hopefully if any of you come back to watch our videos after this, hopefully you'll see a lot more progress on this wonderful beaver. So that is where I am on that. Okay, let's just move on. So I have one more project to show you, and that is a brand new start. And all right, brand new start. So as I had mentioned at the top of the video, I got a finish on the travel project that I was working on. And that was the Noel sweater by by Leela's Studio. And so after I finished that on my last trip, I did get started on the next sweater that I am doing. And so this sweater comes from the Noel en Rouge set of charts. And I am stitching the sweater that has the polar bears on it. So again, this is by Leela's Studio, and I am stitching it on a piece of 36 count Mocha Edinburgh linen by Zweigert. It's the same piece of fabric that I've stitched my other 2 sweaters on. So this is what I have accomplished so far. Not bad for a brand new start. So as you can see, I have the full outline of the sweater. I've stitched in most of the hearts that kind of run across this middle section here, and have started stitching in the pine branches that are around the top of the design. So this one probably won't come out again until I take my next trip, which is going to be end of August, beginning of September. I'm heading back to Senegal, and so I will take this with me, and hopefully we'll be able to get this sweater finished and move on to the next one, because I've got at least 2. I'd like to do actually another 5 sweaters before Christmas, but that's probably quite unrealistic. So, but I need to do at least another 2 after I get this one finished to make the gifts that I've got to make for this Christmas. Anyway, that is the new start. And these sweaters are really a lot of fun to work on. And so I'm looking forward to getting back to this one in, later at the end of summer. So there we go. Okay. So I think what we will do is, for those who are only interested in the stitching, we'll go ahead and tell you what our plans are over the next couple of weeks until we film our next update. And then if you want to move on to your next stitching video, if you're not interested in the globetrotting part, we can let those of you who are ready to go head off. And then for those that want to stick around, I'll share a little bit about the 2 trips that I've taken.
Were you going to do contest winners?
Oh my gosh, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So we'll do the contest winners.
Yes.
And then
we'll do plans.
We'll tell everybody who's not interested.
Yes.
They can leave.
Thank you. Don't leave if you want to win.
You can snatch the pebble.
Thank you. No, I'm glad you reminded me, because I was you're good. Yep. Okay, so in our last video, we celebrated our 5-year anniversary, and we wanted to celebrate that by having a giveaway. So we picked 5 lavender and lace charts, and those charts were really generously gifted to us by one of our viewers, Denise. So thank you again, Denise, for your generosity. We're so excited to share this with our viewers. And we decided to do 1 chart for every year that we've been on Flosstube. And so, oh crud, I forgot to grab them. Well, we'll just read them off. We've got the pictures that we can put up to show you guys. So the first project, or the first chart that we are giving away, is called White Lace. The key word for this was bride, and we put these into the YouTube random comment picker. So you should be seeing the video as I announce them, of the winners. And the winner of White Lace is Denise Crenshaw-Smith. So actually, this is a great time for me to tell you, as I announce who the winners are, we're not going to be putting this in the comments, just because we don't want to. So if you get a comment on on your comment saying that you've won. It is not from us. Please do not respond to that. We will only announce it in the video, and then I will also list you in the description box below the video. So if I announce your name and you've won, please send an email to me at globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. Provide me with your address. And if your name, I think there is only one of you that your channel or your YouTube name is not a person's name, please make sure you provide me with your real name so that I can direct your mail to you.
Just for clarity,
Yeah.
it's the address that you want something sent to.
Yes.
It does not have to be your home address. So if you got another place you'd like it sent, just make sure we get the correct spelling of your name and the correct address you'd like us to use, and we'll do that.
Yes, thank you. That's a good reminder. The other thing that I want to say is that I know this doesn't happen very often, but if for some reason the chart gets lost in the mail, we're not able to replace it. And so please know that just because it's no monetary value, hopefully everything gets to you, but just disclaimer on that. Okay, I think that's enough on the housekeeping piece. So let's move on to the next giveaway. And that was the chart Firefly Fairies, which is, I know, a very much in demand chart. And so the keyword for this gift or this chart was fairy. And the winner is Leeann Hubbard 4290. So congratulations, Leeann. I hope that you enjoy stitching this project. I have it in my stash. I've got it kitted up and I'm planning to do it sometime in the next few years. So I hope that you'll stitch along with me at some point and that you enjoy it. All right, the next project is Morning Song. And the keyword for this chart was morning. And this is actually a project that I stitched, oh my goodness, almost 20 years ago, and loved it. And the winner of this chart is, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, but the winner of this chart is Vrinda Chander 5685. That's Vrinda Chander 5685. So congratulations, Vrinda. The next chart that we're giving away is Angel of Summer, and our keyword for this one was summer. And the winner of this chart is Krystina Tremblay 826, and that's Krystina with spelled with a Y rather than an I. So Krystina Tremblay 826, congratulations, and please be sure to send us an email at globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. And then the final chart that we are giving away is In the Arms of an Angel, and our keyword was Batman. And the winner of this one is someone who, I don't know your name, but I recognize your handle because I see you both on Instagram and in our comments, and that is Stitching on the Rock. So congratulations, Stitching on the Rock. Actually, congratulations to all of our winners. We're really excited. We hope you enjoy the charts. So we will get those out to you in the mail just as soon as we possibly can once we hear back from you. Okay, so we are now going to talk about what our plans are for the next couple of weeks, what we're going to be working on. And then those of you that want to tootle on to the next stitching video can do so. And those of you that want to stick around for the globetrotting part can stick around. So as far as what's coming up, I am, as I had mentioned earlier, I am going to spend another day working on Cabin Fever. So we'll see how much more I can get done on that. Then I'm going to spend a week working on my full coverage Rose Trellis Inn. So that will be, I'm excited to get back to that. And then I am going to be starting, I'm going to be having a new start in my seasonal category. And I haven't decided which of these I'm going to do first, but I'm going to be doing both of them before I do a new kind of season. So I'll be starting either spring delivery or spring gathering. Both of these are scattered seed samplers. And so I've been wanting to start these for a long time. So these will be getting a start. And as far as other things, I'll continue to work on my weekend stitch, which is Butterfly Port Mauve. And we'll also be continuing on with my monthly morning stitch, Lumberjack Beaver. And then Gary is going to be working on Unexpected Visitors and Louis Armstrong. So that's what we are going to be up to over the next couple of weeks. All right, so globetrotting. As I said at the top of the video, I have been to 2 countries, one of which was new. I had never been to Ghana before, and so it was really interesting to be able to pick up a new country and add it to my list. And I also went to Nigeria, and it has been over 10 years since I'd been to Nigeria, so it was very interesting to go back. So as far as the first trip, the trip to Ghana, I sit on an advisory panel for it's a partnership that my organization has been a part of for a number of years now, and there's a number of organizations that are included in the partnership, and so we meet a couple times a year, and so I sit on the advisory panel for the partnership. So I was there for that meeting. So most of what I was in Ghana for was actually sitting in a hotel conference room having meetings. But we did get to go out one day and do a field visit, and so those are always really interesting to see what's actually happening out in the field. And so this was a really particularly interesting field visit because we visited a processing plant. And one of the companies that the processing plant is working with is a company that is, they're using a really unique form of crowdfunding. They're crowdsourcing funding using local commodity trading through an app to raise money to expand their company. And their company does a couple of different things in the soybean value chain and the cashew value chain in Ghana. So basically, one of the things that they do is they help farmers get access to quality inputs, so things like quality seed, fertilizer, other things like that. They also provide mechanization services for smallholder farmers. So because most smallholder farmers are growing on 1 to 2 hectares of land at most, that's just not a large enough plot size to warrant the cost of mechanization. And so smallholder farmers in sub-Saharan Africa do a lot of manual labor. And so what this company does is they actually own the tractors, and they own the plows and the harvesters and all these different kinds of mechanical equipment. And so they work with their farmers to provide this service both at planting time and at harvesting time, so that farmers can actually, speed up the process of getting ready to plant as well as harvesting. And that ends up actually being a win both for the farmers in terms of labor savings, but it's also a win in terms of the quality of their produce when it gets to the processing plant, and the ability of the harvesting ability to make sure that you've got, like I said, a better quality product, but you also are less likely to have kind of post-harvest losses that are associated with fungus and pests and things like that. So that's how this company works with farmers. And so what we did is we visited the plant or the facility that the company is actually working with. It's a separate company that does the processing of the raw produce or the raw offtake once it comes in. And so they bring the soybeans in, and they've got some chaff, and they need to be shelled and all that good stuff. And I think I have a photo of the soybeans in one hand that have kind of the chaff, and then the cleaned soybeans in another hand. So you kind of get the sense of what the processing machine will do to it. And then what those soybeans, once they've been through that cleaning, then they're either, they're of a high enough quality that they can either then go to another processing facility to be turned into, processed for a food product, or they can be exported to a market like China, say, where there's a lot of soybean consumption. So this plant is doing this with soybeans. They're also doing it with cashews. And so I also got some nice pictures of like mounds of soybeans and mounds of cashews to kind of give you a sense of what it looks like there. So that was really interesting. And it was really exciting to see the creativity and the way that this company that we were looking at has found a way to work with farmers And their model of working with farmers is not unusual. There's a lot of similarities to other companies that are doing that. But one of the things that was really exciting and creative is the way that he's raising capital for his business and the vision that he has to work with more farmers and get them into international markets so that they can actually benefit and profit from the hard work that they're doing. So that was really interesting. In terms of other things in Ghana, I don't really have a whole lot else to say because we only, did a little bit in terms of field visits, but I did get to try a new dessert, which was really interesting. I actually sent Gary a picture of it. So one of the local, I guess you could say it's a delicacy or it's a cultural favorite is, they're called tiger nuts. And it is a nut. Local tradition, they're used as snacks. So they're prepared in different ways. So a lot of times they're eaten as snacks or they're turned into a dessert. And tiger nuts, the local lore says that they make men more masculine and more virile. So the picture that you'll see is tiger nuts as a dessert. And I'm just going to tell you, it looks appalling. It looks like snot pudding. I mean, when they served this up, I was like, what is this? I don't want to eat it. It just does not look appetizing whatsoever. But I did go ahead and try it because we were at a dinner and I didn't want to be insulting. So I tried it and it was actually really pleasant. It wasn't the best dessert I've ever had, but it was a very pleasant flavor and I really liked it and I would certainly eat it again. It was also really funny because one of my colleagues who is also on the advisory panel, he's actually a colleague from another organization. He's a German man. And he ate his tiger nuts, and of course everybody was laughing about the increased virility, and so he was like, "Watch out, ladies," which is very unusual for him to joke like that. So it made it even more funny. But anyway, that was very enjoyable. One of the things that I also really enjoyed, it was kind of a nice treat, is that the woman who is leading the implementation for this partnership in Ghana, and there's a different lead there's a bunch of different countries that this partnership is working in, but the lead for Ghana is actually, I discovered, I've met her before and for project purposes, but this is the most time I've spent with her. And so it was a nice opportunity to kind of get to know her on a more personal level. And I discovered, this was so cool, she's actually a queen in her tribal community. So the tribe that she grew up in, the community that she grew up in, it's more than one community. It's, a group of communities in this area. And it's an inherited position. And so she is the queen in this community. And she was telling me that her daughter's actually going to university here in the United States. And she had, this woman had done all kinds of work in all kinds of places, and she's worked in private sector and she's worked in government, but she had never really taken on the mantle of her queenship because she just didn't want all the fuss and bother. And her daughter actually was talking to her and she said, "Mom, you really need to think about how much of an influence you can have on the young women in our community and how you can help pave the way for them to be more successful. You can open up a vision for them of what they can do with their lives. You would have a lot of influence and opportunities that you could open up to young women if you take on the mantle of your queenship." And it was her daughter pointing that out to her that made her rethink her position. And so she accepted that role. And so she is now also working very hard as the queen of this tribe to work on behalf of young women. So it was really lovely to get to know her and to chat with her over dinner and learn more about the history of her people and the work that she's doing for her community. So that was a very great honor, and I really enjoyed that. So I think that's all I'm going to share about my trip to Ghana. As far as going to Nigeria, I was going there for an annual project meeting, and I'm sharing this because many of you have kind of expressed an interest in why do you go to all these places. So in this case, I was going to an annual project review and planning meeting at the end of kind of the first year of implementation. And what we're doing there is trying to support commercialization of a new variety of maize, or for those of you in the United States, corn. It's a really exciting new variety because what it does is it combines drought tolerance, so that, you know, in low rainfall areas, it still performs well, it still produces a lot of maize, but also with resistance to two pests that have just been decimating maize crops in the African continent. And one of those is stem borer, but the really bad one that's become a problem in the last 10 years is called fall armyworm. And I've got a photo of what a fall armyworm looks like. We actually found one in a field while we were there. We found more than one, but we pulled one off a plant and got a picture of what fall armyworm looks like. And this maize variety is actually resistant to it, so that it becomes poisonous to the fall armyworms. So if the worm tries to eat a bite of the plant, the worm will die. And so instead of this maize, you know, becoming like, you know, you can see maize that is a different variety that doesn't have the resistance, and it will be chewed up, and you'll see holes in the leaves. And it doesn't produce a lot of cobs, and the cobs that it does produce don't have a lot of kernels. But this variety of maize, is these beautiful green stalks full of leaves, and it produces big, you know, ears of maize, and it's fantastic. So we were in Nigeria, kind of looking at how the project is doing, where they're having problems, and talking about what we need to do over the next year to kind of course correct to address those issues. So it was really interesting. We did a field visit there as well. But first I want to tell you, I had like a funny, like hot laughing at myself moment, because when I arrived in Nigeria, obviously, you know, just given flight times and airport, you know, like layover times and all of that, when I travel to Africa, it's usually a minimum of like 24 to 28 hours door to door. And so I had just arrived in Abuja. And when I've been in Nigeria in the past, I've always flown in and out of Lagos. I had never actually been to Abuja before. So I flew into Abuja, and I'm like hustling through the airport to get to immigration. And I'm looking around and I'm like, wow, they've really modernized this airport. I mean, they've done a lot here in the last 10 years. This is really impressive. And I was just like, wow, good job, guys. And then I was like, oh, Amy, you moron. Like, it hit me all of a sudden. It was just like my jet lagged brain suddenly realized, no, you've never been in this airport. So I was telling a colleague, and he's like, yeah, that the airport in Lagos is exactly the same as it's always been. And this is how Abuja has been for years. And he's like, anyway, we had a good laugh about it. But at any rate, it was really interesting to get to spend a little bit of time in the field. It's also really intense. The security situation in Nigeria is much different than in many other countries. It's a lot more volatile. And so in order to be able to go to the field, and because we weren't going far outside of Abuja for our field visit when I was there, I didn't realize going into the country that I was going to need, that my organization requires special security clearances if you're going into certain regions. And so I hadn't lined that up in advance. And so I had to very quickly submit my requests and get it all reviewed and get approval. And fortunately, I had two colleagues who were traveling who had already done it. So they had a security detail already arranged for them, and they were able to fold me into it. But you guys, it was pretty intense. Like, I've done a lot of traveling, but this was more intense than anything I've ever done before, because these are like, you know, the guy that was leading the group was like this big Scottish dude who used to be in the British Special Forces. And so a couple of days before our field visit, he like comes and he sits down with us in our hotel, and he like goes over the spiel with us. And he's like, this is how we're going to do it. And this is the plan. And, you know, here's how we're going to do this, that, and the other. And then the morning that we're leaving on the field visit, you know, we're in like a convoy of vehicles, and he comes and he sits in the vehicle with us, and he goes back through the list of, here's the things you need to do. And if the car stops for any reason, if there's an incident, do not get out of the vehicle unless I tell you.
Do you think you're giving away a little bit too much detail?
Maybe. Probably not. No, I don't think so. Anyway, it was intense. And nothing happened. It was totally safe. I was fine. Anyway, so, but one thing that was really interesting is where we went. We visited a small farm. So the guy that we visited actually works for his name is Andrew. He works for the local police, and he's been providing security for the project team as they've been traveling around. And so he was seeing this maize growing in the field just as an observer on the security team, and was seeing how well it was performing for other farmers. And so he said to the project team, he was like, hey, can I try that? And so they gave him some seeds just to give it a try. And he's had amazing results. And so it was really fun to be able to go to his farm because it was just like this totally organic kind of way that he tried it. And it's really opened up interest in his community. So we actually, because it's the rainy season and, if it's not a paved road, it gets pretty rutted. We actually had to walk through his community to get to his field, which was interesting. But his field is like literally side by side with his neighbors. Like the rows are right next to each other. And so I got this great picture of Andrew and his son standing very proudly with their beautiful, like tall, the stalks are already tall. They're green and healthy and lush. And then right next to it is his neighbor's field that is like been already being eaten up by the fall armyworms and is clearly, the stalks are smaller. They're clearly a lot less healthy. And so I was talking to some of the farmers that live around him and that are growing maize right around him, and their fields are all just infested and his is healthy. And so they're all saying, we want to get this product. Can you get us these seeds? And they're really excited about it. And it was just a really cool experience to kind of see the excitement and the interest that just seeing the product growing in the field is generating without us doing anything. And so that was really cool. So I think that was pretty much it. It was a short field visit, but it was just a really nice experience and always lovely to get out and meet farmers and meet the real people that were trying to improve their farming experience and give them better opportunities. So yeah, I think that's it for globetrotting. I've run out of things to say. So I think that does it for us. Thank you all so much for your patience as we've had a busy couple weeks, as we've said. And we look forward to seeing you much sooner. So if you enjoy our videos and you're still hanging around here, please do give us a thumbs up. It helps us to find new viewers in the YouTube algorithm. We love to hear your comments, so please feel free to leave a comment. You can email us at globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at globetrotting_stitcher. So I think that does it for us today. Thanks for hanging in there for the long video, and we hope that you were stitching on something that you were enjoying, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Happy stitching.